We're going to use the Ten Commandments as a measuring rod to see where America stands morally. The Ten Commandments were the first law written. They were written by the hand of God into stone as an everlasting law. Part of the covenant with Abraham. Told the people to follow his laws. The first commandment, and it's found in a couple places. One is Exodus 23 through 17. You shall have no other gods before me. I really shouldn't even have to elaborate. I believe we could easily say that there are many gods that we place before the one true God. Our country tends to depend on our military might and the value of our dollar way before we turn to our God. There is no doubt that God will destroy our currency and overtake our military at some point. If we are the Babylon of Jeremiah 50 and 51, Isaiah 13, Revelation 17 and 18, sudden destruction will surely come. Help us to identify any gods we put before you and make you our one and only God, Lord. Americans, we don't think that we need God. We have plenty of stuff. We are comfortable. We don't even have to work. A family can make $70,000 a year off the government. There was an article written, if you do this, this, and this, you could get $70,000 a year as a family just by turning in these forms. We have clean water. We have plenty of food, great health care, lots of toys, phones, TVs with 200 channels. Why do we need God? That's what we think, or many think. We worship our kids, our spouse, our own physique, toys, our job, money, sports, and many other things. But we can carve out an hour or two, maybe a week for church, right? Is that really time committed to God, or are we just checking a box? I don't think Americans really understand Philippians 1:29 when it says, "For it has been granted to you that for the sake of Christ you should not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake." Or Revelation 24, "Then I saw thrones, and seated on them were those to whom the authority to judge was committed. Also I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for the testimony of Jesus and for the word of God, and those who had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years." These verses speak of torture, beheading, death, sacrifice, and basically giving it all to God. And there's people, Christians in other countries, that go through that right now and have for years, but we're so detached as Americans, we don't see that as something that we will have to do. But I believe the Bible's pretty clear that in the tribulation time, no one is going to be immune to the effects of the Antichrist or the beast and his system. Now, I believe God can and will protect us, but I believe many of us will literally fall and be killed. And if we're being killed for God, so be it. I believe it's a worthy cause, and we would have 1,000 years to reign with Christ for that sacrifice. Let's look at number 2. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. So it's looking at idols. Don't have any idols, not just idols like the first commandment where, sports and all these things where we spend our time and efforts, but images and things. So here's a couple. We've got Baphomet, an obvious satanic symbol. Notice the pentagram on there, and the staff and the snakes. And then we've got on the left side, we have Moloch, the bull with the all-seeing eye. And this was the statue that they made at the bottom of Jabal Alaz, the mountain of the law, was called Mount Sinai, when Moses got the law. The Jews brought from Egypt. He often had his hands out, and they would heat him up, and they would put babies in his hands, and they would be burnt alive. Child sacrifice was a big part of that. That statue. The Baphomet is both masculine and feminine. Typically has larger breasts on most statues, and it's kind of a hermaphrodite figure, which we see the results of some of those teachings now. They're negative for the family and for Christians as a whole. This is what was said when this statue was put up. I present to you Baphomet. Lucian Greaves, co-founder of the Satanic Temple, told the cheering crowd that had gathered for the First Amendment rally. The 7.5-foot figure is a symbol of pluralism, legal equality, tolerance, and reconciliation for Satanists. Greaves explained to NPR on Friday, and the reason he had hauled it out of storage to that particular site was to protest another monument permanently installed on the grounds, the Ten Commandments. So we're replacing the Ten Commandments with something that is against virtually everything within the Ten Commandments. And granted, oh, that's just a limited group of people is what you may be thinking. So we don't have any idols anymore, really. If that's what you think, let us explore some more. About Mother Mary. Daily prayers to the Blessed Virgin Mary. If you're praying to a person and not to God, that is an idol. The physical symbol would be as well. Hot cross buns, Santa Claus, Christmas trees, the Easter bunny and Easter eggs, Halloween outfits, dressing up, and a lot of the activities that we perform on what we call the so-called holidays actually have pagan symbols, images, characters, and roots. And a lot of people don't know about all that, and so I don't hold it against you, but you need to be informed. So inform yourself. There's plenty of websites that can give you some information, lots of books written about the subject, but don't be ignorant. Hosea 4:6, I believe, says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. If you have a lack of knowledge in today's society, it's because you have not sought it out. You do not have a love for the truth, as we read in Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians, I believe, under the Great Delusion. So look at, if you would, Truth Unedited YouTube channel, and he has a number of videos on symbols. It has a whole series on symbols, and there's also another series on all the false religions of the world, how they started basically back at the Tower of Babel and propagated throughout different societies and cultures from that point on. And there's different names for the gods and goddesses, but they're the same ones. And how the theme is anti-Christian throughout, although a lot of people don't recognize it as such today because we just have a lack of understanding. So educate yourself and get rid of your graven images. You think you have none? Let's look at some more. We could do a lot of symbols, and we really don't have time to cover a tremendous amount. However, I just want to throw this grouping up here that a lot of people have seen and associate with the Masonic Lodge and over here to the right, you see all kinds of symbols of various religions of the world, indicating that they are accepting of any and all types of religion, as long as you trust in some kind of deity, the great architect of the universe, which is really general and basically anything except the actual one true God. No matter what they say, they mean anything except that, as long as you don't proclaim Jesus as the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through Him. Um, we've got things like the horns here, which go back to the graven image of Moloch, the cow god that they made at the base of Mount Sinai, and the five-pointed star, which is the pentagram, which is associated with Baphomet, which is associated with Islam. We've got the hexagram, which is according to occult magic, which is, let's see, they called it the strongest of all the symbols by modern alchemy. You've got Albert Pike, who wrote Morals and Dogma, 33rd degree Freemason. He says Thor was the son of the Egyptian Osiris, and Neph, the Phoenician Baal or Baal, which is also Moloch. This guy over here, not this guy over here, but the guy that we got these symbols from. Baphomet is different, but Baal is who the Jewish people worshipped and were severely punished for from various religions of people in and around them. So this god Baal, under the name of Thor, also is called the Prince of the Power of the Air. Now, who is that? In the Bible, Jesus refers to him as Satan or Lucifer, and that's we've got various names for him, but that's who they actually worship. Knowingly or not, it's a fact, and you can go to many written works of the Masons and other entities to find the truth behind the symbols. The truth is not what they want you to know, though. The Ankh is another one. This is the goat of Mendes, associated with occult, paganist, and satanic worship. The pentagram is one of the most potent symbols for conjuring spirits used in witchcraft and sorcery. We could go on and on. We don't have time to go on and on about it, but these graven images you see on jewelry, rings, vehicles, leather binders, you name it. You see a lot of these things all over the place, but a lot of people have no idea what they're actually wearing. We didn't even cover like the Eye of Horus here, which is Osiris, who is prayed to in the Capitol in Washington, D.C. at every inauguration of the U.S. president by the Masonic high-ranking elders. So anyway, here's Truth Unedited Symbols Explained. I do not agree with everything the guy says, but he does a pretty good job on a few of his series, and here's one of them. There's at least six videos on just symbols that you probably ought to watch. Some of them maybe it goes a little far, but a lot of them are pretty dang well researched and factually based evidence for how bad they are. They truly are bad, and what they really mean. And remember, what they mean isn't what somebody says they mean. What they mean is what was the original meaning and use of it, and how was it used over the years, and what is the esoteric or hidden knowledge about that symbol. That is how secret societies communicate. So that's what you truly have to understand. So graven images, this is just one example within a niche of multiple graven images, but we see them, we have them, we portray them as oftentimes unknowing, hopefully at least, hosts within the United States and around the world. So again, we fail, even though you don't think we do initially a lot of times, but we fail as a country this commandment of make no graven image of another god. Okay, so the third commandment, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. So we oftentimes think that or say that means don't cuss, or say GD or Jesus in a foul manner, etc. And I think that is wrong, but I don't believe that was the original intent of this commandment. I think that one that takes the name of God is one who says, I am his, he is mine. Who do you worship? I worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the I am, Yahweh, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the really one and only true God. All others were not, they were Elohim in that they're spirit in a way, either fallen angels or some other entity, but not really gods. They were not the gods as we know the word God to mean. Therefore, we take his name by saying we are Christians today. I follow Christ. I'm a follower of Christ. If I follow Jesus Christ as my Savior, I am following the same God. But I shouldn't do so in vain. Meaning, if I follow Christ, I actually do what he says. That's the following part. If I call myself a Christian, I should follow the commands of Jesus Christ, right? Therefore, vain means without sincerity or proper respect or manipulation. I don't have other ulterior motives other than I just want to please him and I want to do what's right. That anything else is in vain. Merriam-Webster says vain means like the first one is like conceited, but after that the second one is unsuccessful or useless or marked by futility or ineffectualness. That's exactly what we're talking about. Say we're a Christian, but we haven't really done anything to prove that. I say I'm a Christian, but I don't really look like it. Can somebody pick me out of a crowd and say, that guy, he's a follower of Christ? I can tell by the fruit he produces. I can tell by the way he walks, the way he talks and holds himself. He's always trying to lift people up and do the right thing. He praises God when good things happen, and he'll stop and pray for you and help you anytime you need it. That's the guy that we know is truly one of God's children following in his way. So, compared to the United States, I believe at one point we were, for the most part, trying to follow God's direction. We sought his guidance when we formed our country and formed the independence from England and created our legal system. It was the first legal system based around these 10 commandments and God's moral code and laws. And I think that we did that for quite a while, but slowly, ever so slowly, we got further and further and further away to where even our Constitution means virtually nothing anymore. We've trampled on it to the point where we're extremely far from the God-fearing and worshiping nation that we once were. We do not give him credit for anything good that we do, and do not feel like those that say, "Oh, we're a Christian nation," are mistaken in a lot of ways. We still have a lot of good people and do a lot of good things. However, the There's a big majority of things that we do that are extremely bad, and so many that people don't even know about. See uh, the video on a great delusion, and um, maybe learn some more about some of the ways that we displease God quite a bit. We fail without a doubt on the third commandment of taking the Lord's name in vain because our actions do not exemplify those of a follower of Jesus Christ and the one and only true God, Yahweh. All right, now number 4. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. He set that example for us, right? Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So it is the 6 days work, and on the seventh day is the Sabbath. The seventh day is Saturday. How many people observe the Sabbath on Saturday? Not a lot. I think most observe it on Sunday. Why? Because traditions of man. The Catholic Church changed it at some point, and we bucked that system for a while, but ended up just kind of falling in suit over the generations, and basically everybody kind of fell in line, and then it just kind of became a little thing that everybody did. Why do you do it? I don't know, just because. Well, Jesus was raised on Sunday, that's why. But is that biblical? Negative. The Bible is very explicit, and it says it right here. This is what I'm reading to you, so don't take my word for it. If this is offensive to you, then I'm not offending you. The Bible is. It says very plainly that the Sabbath is on Saturday. We are to not work and to keep it holy. So even if you decide to choose Sunday instead of Saturday, do we truly keep it holy? I'd say for the vast majority of America, first of all, we do not follow this commandment. Very, very large portion, like 90+%, probably more than that. So God, just forgive us where we fail you and open our eyes and our hearts so we can see where we should be. Let your word be written on our hearts so that we can truly understand what is pleasing to you, and give us the strength to do it even against the dissenting opinions of other people. Thank you, Lord. All right, number 5. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. Again, I don't think children have been any worse ever than they are now. Kids are just bad. Not all of them, but the vast majority of them are just bad. They do not listen to their parents, and it's an epidemic. They're more disobedient by each passing generation. Parents are forsaking their duty to train children in the way they should go and become more like friends than parents. This has led to a generation of young adults that thrive on sin and believe that communism and socialism is superior to a capitalist and free society with less governmental regulations. They're blind. Children and now adults have become completely spoiled. We as a nation do not thank God for what He has provided. Instead, we just want more, more, more. We fail as a nation to honor our father and our mother. What about number 6? Shall not murder. Okay. Well, I think the obvious grievous example of that is the wanton murder of over 60 million babies. that since Roe versus Wade, our legal system is corrupt to allow such a horrific act. How could anybody in their right mind say that that is legal? They can't. It's a sacrifice to Moloch in the eyes of many of those that support it. Not only are we guilty for the over 60 million murders in the United States, but as a global leader and an example to other countries, we have caused the world to follow our lead and kill many times more. They have drank the wine of the wrath of our fornication. The estimated number of innocent civilians killed in Iraq and Afghanistan is over 200,000. That's not the soldiers, armed combatants, that's estimated innocent civilians, over 200,000. What about Muammar Gaddafi? He dared to institute a gold-backed dinar to be used by all of Africa to strengthen their economy. He didn't live much longer after that. Here's a chart of deaths in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, over in the Middle East in the last couple of decades. And some pretty high numbers. Just looking at civilians, it's a pretty good amount. There's been a whole lot of death going on. Now, I do not believe that war is murder in any, as far as soldiers go. Soldiers are doing their job, and we do it well. However, if you've got global elites that are instigating a war for personal profit, they are guilty of murder. Anyone that is knowingly complicit, such as lawmakers or high-ranking military officials, they are also complicit in murder if they are doing it for monetary gain, power, and not for their oath of office, which is to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. As uniformed personnel, we take that oath, right? And it means that we're actually protecting the country and what our country stands for. Now, as an armed service member, you do not have to follow an illegal order. So if it's obviously illegal, it does not have to be done. So you can refuse that. And then, but that takes a level of maturity. I won't get into the details on that, but for the most part, I would say only those that are pulling the strings from way up top are the ones that would be considered murdering when it comes to wartime deaths. But America is the hammer of the whole earth, and we have caused a lot of damage throughout many countries. So I think we fell on numero 6, and now numero 7, you shall not commit adultery. Again, do we really have to say anything about it? Not really. As a nation and around the world, it's become a common practice, and we rebuke that evil spirit and the evil spirits that lead our people into that, into lust, into adultery. We know that we propagate a lot of the attitudes that say it's okay or make people think it's okay and help them to rationalize it through TV, music, movies, and other media that we put out. And we're basically the world leader in that. So we're the world leader in, again, exporting sin to the rest of the world. We fell on number 7 of the 10 Commandments. Number 8, you shall not steal. Right? So, again, this requires virtually a series of its own, but I'm going to briefly explain that the U.S. has controlled the world through the petrodollar since the Nixon administration and illegally taken our country away from the gold standard, right? We forced countries around the world to buy our debt as we spend excessively and force countries to buy oil with only US dollars. The Federal Reserve System makes money off of the taxpayers and interest from every debt within its domain, which is almost the entire world. So it's all run virtually by central banks funneling money from the people, the masses of people, to the ultra rich. The entire system is illegal, and it's designed to steal wealth from the masses. A couple others are, one is in the United States, millions of acres of land have been stolen from people across the country and are often used for business deals with other countries. Politicians making money on the side. The deals destroy the hardworking people that use the land for their livelihoods and simultaneously weaken our country, and they strengthen our enemies. For example, selling uranium or allowing Alcine to install solar farms or wind turbine farms or whatever else it is, other countries doing this on our soil, which is them having control of our utilities. It's a plot literally to take over the world and instill a one world government by, in the future, and very soon I believe, destroying the United States. We recognize it for what it is. And we ask God to right this wrong. Hold those accountable that have done this for so long. Number 8, thou shalt not steal as a country, and as at least the leaders and the globalists, we fell miserably. All right, you should not bear false witness against your neighbor, which is lying, right? Lawyers lie. They have arguments both ways. Somebody's probably not telling the truth. That's what they get paid to do. Politicians, we know, do the same thing. The mainstream media perpetually lies or twists the truth enough to manipulate people into believing something else, and those beliefs are whatever they're taught or told to push by the puppet masters. In case you missed a strong delusion, there are a lot more lies in this world than you realize. Many of them you may even believe yourself. So make sure you watch that if you have not. And we will just probably give us we fail for the most part on number 9 without having to go into a tremendous amount of explanation. Last but not least, the 10th commandment. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor's. And maybe a more modern way of saying the same thing is you shouldn't covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, his truck, his boat, his career, his swag, or anything that's your neighbor's. We live in a world where people constantly show off what they have and what they do on social media as if life is a contest to see who can do the best, be the best, and acquire the most stuff. It's pretty pathetic. People want to flaunt what they have. It may be because they desire to be better than their peers, but we just seem to want more stuff. Better kids, harder workouts, a better spouse, a nicer home. Nothing really seems to be enough in today's society. The average size home or cost of a vehicle is outrageous compared to what it was 50 years ago. People used to be satisfied with a small, comfortable home and a cheap car that doesn't break down too often and gets them from here to there. Now we feel like we deserve better stuff and we deserve more stuff. God, are you proud of the fancy stuff we have? Do you want us to go into debt for a bunch of nice things? I believe that your word says the debtor is a slave to the lender, and the only reason we have what we have is because you allow us to have it. I believe it will soon be taken away. Praise you, God, for what you've given us so far, much more than we deserve, but I don't know that we're truly thankful for it, and we continue to covet and want more stuff. And therefore, the United States definitely, probably more than any country in the world, fails miserably at the 10th commandment. As a nation, we fail God on all 10 commandments. As a country, we began teaching children in schools with the New England Primer and the Bible. That's all they needed. Now they've removed Bibles, prayer, and the 10 commandments from most schools. Where were strong Christians to object? Why did we not stand up stronger and stop some of this stuff in its tracks in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s when it really got going? We once set a good example for the rest of the world with our love and our charity. Just compare the moral life lessons taught in early TV shows. Now compare that to what we export now. And everyone around the world virtually does watch US TV and movies. So most of it isn't even realistic. So that just blatantly lets you know that we do fail as far as the 10 commandments go. Forgive us, Lord. Show us our sin. Teach us to be righteous before you have to come and punish us. Allow us to get right with you before you send tribulation upon us. To be a just God, you should and you will send judgment upon us. But I ask throughout that judgment, you give us protection and you give us the ability to witness to those that just can't see the error of our ways. Through the trial and through the tribulation, people will seek answers, and it's that at that time that their hearts will be open to the saving grace of Jesus Christ. I just ask that people seek that and you send your Holy Spirit upon their heart so they will be open to that message prior to any sudden demise they may suffer. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for watching. That is the end of America versus the 10 Commandments.